Hello, everybody. This is Jen Hadley, and I am here with Fierce Mom Personal Coaching, and I have a lovely guest today. Her name is Sally King. Hello, Sally.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've been really excited about our conversation because you have quite the story, and I'm so excited for people to hear it. You come from a life of adoption, and now you're an adoptive parent, and in Fierce Mom, we talk about parenting and mental wellness. And I know that those two go hand in hand, especially I'm sure with your story. So I'm just going to do a quick intro and then I'm going to get you to introduce yourself because you'll do a better job than I will. So you are an author, a speaker, a parent coach, and you just wrote a book not long ago called In Search of Serenity, and you're working on another one. So let me hand it over to you and you can let me know a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I kind of fit all those areas you talk about. I'm a parent coach. There are some that would say I'm mental, but
we're all a little mental.
We're all a little bit. It's what makes us amazing, right? But I've definitely had I was a foster kid, then I was adopted, and it doesn't. The big mistake that people make is they think that, oh, she's adopted, and they all lived happily ever after, and that's not how that works, sadly. And so I have this whole trauma background, and then I had some abuse in my childhood, not by my parents, but by someone in our world. And so, it kind of led to, by the time I was 18, a great big bucket of suck, really. And trying to find yourself and trying to figure out who you are. And when you don't know who you are, I mean, that's the crazy part, right? You don't even know who you are because you're adopted. You're not allowed. Everything's closed. Yeah. And, it's a little bit more open now, but it's still not. Excuse me. And so, yeah. So, and then I sort of thought I should be on both sides of the arena. Just by fluke, we now have a little girl that we have fostered and adopted. Amazing. And yeah, so we've now dealing with stuff with her. Not that she's a problem, because she sure isn't, but being adopted, being a foster kid doesn't come without its pitfalls.
I'm sure. And so what age were you at when you were adopted?
I was apprehended when I was 6 months old due to neglect. My mother was starving me to death, essentially. And so then I was put into foster care. Again, there's not a lot of information. Some of it's not great. And so the story is that I was in foster care for a few months and then I was adopted. But I do know that I was even not legally adopted for some time, because I know that I remember my mom saying once, my adoptive parents are both passed away, so I can't even ask them stuff, right? And I didn't, they died very young, so I can't, when I got to the point where I really wanted to know the answers, I couldn't ask them. Oh. And so I remember mom saying that they went camping and I was about 1.5 years and I fell off the top bunk and I had a big bruise on my forehead, and she was so scared they would take me away because it wasn't finalized yet. So I remember her saying that. So, and that's a real concern for foster parents, adoptive parents. Let me tell you, like, you think about everything very differently.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, how many times have my kids bumped and scraped and bruised and all of that? And that's just normal parenting. So when you're being scrutinized and you're under the radar like that, that's got to be terrifying.
It's very terrifying. And even though Serenity's fully adopted now, I still worry about those things, right? I still worry that people, and social services still is part of your life once a year, and they don't check on her or anything. They, we've passed muster, so to speak, but it's just, it's always a worry, right? And when she was fostering, oh my gosh, that was a complete worry.
When she's what, sorry?
When she was still fostering, because we got her when she was 1 year old, but we didn't actually have her legally adopted until she was 4.
Okay. And so you fostered her and then you adopted her legally.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't I'm not of the adoption world. So how does it work? Because I know that there's a lot of horror stories that come out of that world. I know that there's a lot of stigma around it, but you seem to have turned out okay, and you're turning it around, and you're bringing hope and joy to another person that needed that kind of guidance as well. So what is it really like?
Well, it's the biggest problem with it is that everybody's got an opinion. Everyone's got on that kind of thing, right? And so they think you should be a certain way. The biggest thing that people need to realize when they foster adopt is that this child, just because they get into your home and you're safe and you love them, sadly, loving them is not enough. And they don't come with a clean slate. And so even if a child is surrendered at birth, there is still trauma.
Yeah.
That's something people need to understand. And so and just the whole, so when you don't know who you are, you don't have any rights. As an adoptee, you have no rights Zero. They're the one person in that dichotomy that has zero rights. Not that triad, I guess it's not dichotomy, sorry. In that triad that has no rights is the child. They don't get their information. They don't, I mean, they give you non-identifying information, and most of it from, I'm 56, Jen, so, you know, they made up a lot of crap back then. And years ago, the Fifth Estate did a story on me, and a social worker actually admitted they made stuff up just to make it sound better because they didn't want to make you unadoptable, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that's special. So you don't have the non-identifying information is, you know, the standard answer was your mother was a secretary, your father was a truck driver, which is kind of funny because like really that was the two careers you picked. All right, cool. Because I know so many adoptees and that was their story.
And there's a stigma there that's created right there just out of nowhere.
Right. Okay. And so it's so there's so little information, and now, you know, now they overshare. Well, I mean, they don't overshare, but they share all the negative stuff. So you have to come back from that and try to figure out who you are and how you fit in the world. And if you don't look like your adoptive parents, you stand out like a beacon. I mean, Serenity is Indigenous, so I think it's fairly safe to say that we don't look alike.
Right.
So we don't go anywhere without someone looking, commenting. They comment less now that she's older, but when she was a baby, I literally got it like, oh my gosh, so many, 3-4 times a week. Grocery stores, Walmart, didn't matter where people would have to weigh in. Oh, she's so cute. Is there anything wrong with her? Oh. That was my favorite question.
What is there? Who even asks that? I don't even understand. Right? Like, that's just so audacious to me. And I mean, I talk about living unapologetically, but that's just rude.
It is totally rude. And that's the whole thing, right? It's none of their damn business. And, you know, I have 2 biological children. And I can honestly tell you that when I was in Walmart, Superstore, or wherever, nobody ever commented on my kids, ever.
No.
And I didn't go anywhere with Serenity without someone commenting. And it was typically because she's obviously a foster child, because we don't look alike, and probably there's a bit of her nationality involved, that they would go, is there anything wrong with her? And I just kind of got, I was at first I would be polite, and now I'm just like, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with her, but there's clearly something wrong with you. Your mother never taught you any manners.
Oh my goodness.
Just trying to buy tomatoes, Karen. That's all I'm trying to do here. Move along. You don't need to know how we all fit together in the big world. But so when you can't go places and you know you don't look like someone, and you don't, and you're called, I mean, I've been places and people have said, like, we went to a fun center once, and you know how you have to sign into those fun play centers and stuff, and somebody actually questioned that I was her mother.
Yeah, but I get that. That makes sense, you know.
That was not a pretty day. That wasn't my best mommy moment.
Well, I wouldn't want to mess with you. So you wrote this book. It was after you adopted Serenity, and it's called In Search of Serenity. So tell us about that, because I'm waiting for my copy. There it is. I don't have it here. I normally would have it here, but I haven't received it yet, so I'm waiting. But tell us what we're going to find in there. Obviously, we're going to hear your story.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of handy that her name was Serenity. I did not realize how much I was even messed up by my adoption until I got her. Like, it was shocking. That was absolutely shocking to me. So I, and as we got her and I saw her behavior, the way she responded to things and the way she acted, and dealing with social services was so hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And so how triggering that was for me, and how it really, like, her adoption nearly brought me to my knees, and it made me re-examine just how much my past affected me. And so I started writing this book when she was about, probably when she was adopted, which was about 4. And I released it last October, so she's 10 now. And it is mostly my story and how it intertwines with hers, because her story is not mine to tell.
Right.
It is her story.
Right.
So but I do talk about my experience with social services and how I had to deal with them and how gut-wrenchingly horrible it was. And I talk about my past and how much my adoption affected me and how much it changed me in ways that people don't think about, right?
Like what? Give me an example.
Just, you can't even go to a doctor's office without someone saying, so we're going to need a family history.
And you don't have one.
I don't got nothing. Oh, I mean, when my oldest son he's 22 now, when he was 3 months old, he had a grand mal seizure in my arms. And the first thing they do is they think, oh God, is this child epileptic? So the first thing they wanted was a family history. Well, there's nothing on my husband's side, and I'm adopted. I had to petition post-adoptive services in Edmonton to get my family history, and they wouldn't give it to me because they didn't think it was a good enough reason because epilepsy wasn't fatal.
Oh, wow.
So I actually did the media. Fifth Estate did a story on me. Like, don't push this mama because she will come out swinging.
I love it.
And
You know what though? But you have to be that way sometimes in order to get, like they call them Karens or they call you whatever it is. But when your child needs help, like nothing matters at that point. You can, you'll push through everything that you can to get that help for your child, and good for you for not quitting, because that's not.
I made their life a living misery. I knew that the only way that I was going to, I harassed them. I had, like I say, CBC, Global, CTV, all of those. And then the Fifth Estate did a story on me. And I mean, I was going to vilify this guy that was the head of the post-adoptive registry, who I, to this day, hear his name, and he's not involved anymore because he's retired probably. And that's a good thing, although no one's replaced him any better. But the point is that you're playing God in our lives. We don't have access to our own freaking medical information. Are you kidding me right now? Like, how does that work? I don't have access to know how I came onto this earth. And what I've learned is that the story of I have met my birth mother and I've met my birth family. And what I have learned is that the story that they put in my posts, in my non-identifying information, was all bunk. Yeah. It was garbage. Like, and so.
So she wasn't a secretary and he wasn't a truck driver?
No, I don't actually think she knows who he was. I did do Ancestry, and it turned up, I think I found his family, but then that's a whole other story. Like, turns out there was an illegitimate son. They think I might be the daughter of him, but that illegitimate son from an affair. Yeah, it's convoluted. I didn't come on this earth easily. Let's just put it that way.
You have a lot of books to write, it sounds like. Well, okay, so let's say somebody wants to go through the adoption process. It's not an easy route, but what would you tell people who want to have a child, who want to adopt, who want to, for whatever their reasons are, how do you go? What do you do? What's the first step?
So here's the thing. The first step is you have to recognize that it's not easy. You're going to be dealing with some very, very difficult, unkind people. But the biggest message that I want to get out there is these kids matter, and somebody needs to fight for them. Somebody needs to fight for them because they matter. Because for whatever reason, they're not going back to bio. So, and I'm talking now just with social services. Now, we have tried to adopt internationally. That was a whole many-headed monster that never worked out for us. An expensive one. I mean, you have to go through all the channels. You have to have a home study. But the biggest thing is you have to recognize that I'm actually going to be writing a course on how to do adoption well. And the biggest thing is love is not enough. Know that. No matter how much you love that kid, it's not going to be enough. As far as they're going to have some stuff because they come with you with the trauma piece, right? So you have to deal with that. And when kids are understood and listened to, good things happen. But you have to recognize that any advice that you get from your friend or your mother or your grandma or your neighbor, throw it out because it doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, and that's in the, I mean, I don't want to call it normal, but in the typical family situation, the bio world, like, I don't want to listen to what my mom tells me to do. And that's my own child, and that's my own. So having that extra layer just makes it even harder, I can imagine.
And it's actually damaging.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Actually really damaging. There's a whole protocol that we did. And because I was Serenity, I mean, the premise of my book is that she saved me because I figured myself out because of her coming into my world, right? And so when the big piece of it is that I was the kid that everybody hated. I was the kid that nobody wanted around. I had prenatal exposure. I had trauma, I had all of the things, and I had some abuse in my childhood. And so all of these things made me a walking time bomb.
Yeah.
Like, I had all this sensory stuff. And so I was the brat. I was the one that was spanked and sent to my room, which, oh my gosh, made things, whoa. Like, if you want to make a bonfire out of a small fire, just throw some gas on it with, sending a child like this to their room. Or, you don't send the hurting away. You lean in, you love on them harder, and you try to understand. That's what it comes down to, right? So I'm really big on understand what you're getting. We are super lovable. We are super amazing, but we also are very, very different. And it's like anything. If you don't know what you have, if you're trying to fix your Nissan car with a Ford manual, it's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And it's the same thing. You know, we don't have Serenity's 10. We don't have behavioral issues with her. We just don't. And not that I'm so perfect or wonderful, but I made it my goal to understand her, to lean in when it got tough, to not take her behavior personally.
Yes. That's the struggle for me as a parent too, is not take it personally when your kid says those things, and they say them as they get older, you know.
And you know, here's the thing I always say to parents about that is, because I'm a coach, right, with the Brave Parent Institute. And I always say, listen, your kid doesn't wake up and go, okay, today's the day. I'm going to have her losing her junk, sobbing in the corner
Right.
by 10, or I have failed this day.
Of course not.
They don't do that, but it feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that some days. And so, you know, I took a course early on when we had Serenity, and it was the most beneficial course, and anybody who adopts should take this course. And social services will pay for it, but they won't endorse it because it has a religious aspect to it. It's very minimal. It doesn't, you know, if it's not your thing, the information is gold. And it's by the work of Dr. Karen Purvis. And I quote her a lot in my book because the woman was a saint. And the biggest thing is that, you know, you don't send them away. You don't take a child and you go to your room.
Yeah, that's the easy answer. Go to your room.
Or I'm going to take this away from you. Consequences mean when you were a kid from abuse, consequences, go ahead, hit me hard, hit me harder, do it. That's what it becomes, right? You probably just looked at my nose just then. Sorry. But this is the thing, and that's what my parents would do. And I remember them sending me to my room, and I would lose my ever-loving mind and start trashing the place. And then I always say that my mom must have had shares in a wooden spoon factory because she broke that many over my butt. She had broke.
Mine too.
Right? And so, but if you lean in and try to understand, and you have to understand the brain and how the brain works and how a trauma brain works, and if you understand that stuff and you learn that stuff and you make it your business to learn that stuff, it hasn't been a problem. A child flipping out is always, it's not a personal thing. It's not an attack on you. What it is it's they are responding to the world around them, albeit in a really crappy way.
Right. But if they haven't learned the tools to manage their emotions, and if they haven't, you know, gotten to that point where they know how to handle it, you know, that those ages are really, really hard as they are.
As they are.
And then add that, you know, add the added trauma, and add the not knowing, and then add the, you know, who knows, you know, even as you're a child, if you're not fully adopted and you're still fostering, you might, you know, going through from one house to another and never sure of where you're going to end up. That's really scary. That's scary as an adult to think about.
It changes who you are. And unfortunately, it changes who you are forever until you become an adult, and then you figure out, okay, like, I'm 56 years old. Why have I always had this food issue? Oh, well, do you think it had anything to do with the fact that for the first 6 months of my life, I was starved to death? That's in my DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And you learn it all before you're 6, right? That's where it all comes in your subconscious before you're 6, you learn all those things.
That's exactly. And about safety and self-safety. And so, and a kid will flip their lid. And when a kid has flipped their lid, you lecturing them or trying to reason with them is a ridiculous notion. Yet we all do it.
Yeah, we can't reason. Yeah. But even as an adult, you can't reason with somebody who's off their rocker at the moment, you know?
Do you know why that is, Jeff? It's because your thinking brain is 3 seconds slower than your emotional brain. So when you're flipped your lid, you're in your emotional mode, you're in full court, you're putting off stress, and you're just like, it wouldn't matter what someone said, you're gonna get madder.
Yeah. So,
you know, with her, I just go, you know what, let's sit down. And if she's mad, I remember one time she said, I hate you. I said, that's okay, my darling. I love you. I got enough for both of us right now. You're good. I got us covered. Let's sit down. And we just took some time. And I just rubbed her leg and I rubbed her back. And then it's over. And then she can breathe. Her thinking brain is now caught up. Mm-hmm. And now we have time to go, so what was going on for you?
Yeah. What was that about?
What was happening for you? And you can't, and the other thing with these kids is that they learn to shove their stuff down.
Yeah.
So you have to help them. You can't just go, what was that about? I don't know. Nothing. It was about something. And to keep egging them on will put them back in their full court brain. So you have to give them questions to help them figure it out, because sometimes they don't even know.
So then as an adult now, you know, I'm sure you're part of communities with adults, you know, of adult adoptees and so what is it like in that community, like having grown up and now knowing that there's, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of anger and a lot of unresolved issue and a lot of hurt.
Yeah.
But then as an adult, how do you manage that? What are you seeing around the adult community that's
Well, you know,
sensitive?
it's funny you bring that up, because I am a bit of an enigma in this world of adoption, because I discovered, so you never know. I always said, by being adopted, I always felt like I was broken. I always felt like I belonged on the island of the misfit toys, but I could never find the freaking island.
Yeah.
And so it was always a problem for me. And I found about several years ago, I found an adult adoptee group, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be my people. They're going to get me. I'm finally going to be understood for the first, because my husband's amazing, but he's not adopted. He doesn't get it, right?
No.
He does his best, but how can he, right?
Sure.
And so, and same thing with my friends. And so finally, I thought, oh, it's going to be great. And I went, and it was the worst experience of my life, because there is a growing group of adult adoptees who think that adoption is a terrible thing. It's the worst thing that ever happened, and we'd be better off aborted. Someone actually said that to me.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, that's right. I couldn't get there. And then they found out that not only was I an adult adoptee who didn't think this way and didn't refer to my adopters as they refer to them, with their APs, like we talk about your rapist, they hate their adoptive parents, and they hate adoption, and they hate everything about it. They want it banned. Oh dear, I've adopted, haven't I?
So now you're an AP.
Yeah, I'm an AP too. So it was and they were very, very, very cruel to me. And I was like, it was one meeting, and I got up and I said, I'm gonna go, because I don't belong here. I don't fit here. It's official. And at that point, I was in tears, and I said, it's official. I fit nowhere. And I said, but I'm going to say something to you people. Adoption's going to happen. Adoption is needed. Yeah. Adoption can be good, but not with this attitude. So you better find a way to think something better about how you came from, because I had a little newsflash for you. Abuse is not just immune in the adoption parent world. Right. Lots of bio parents abuse their kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hence why they end up in foster care. And we're back. You know what I mean? Like yeah. This is the thing. So my thing was, that was a real pivotal moment for me, because it was like, I fit nowhere. Because I always said I felt like I sat on the outside looking in, never part of anything, right?
Yeah, and then you finally find your group, and then that's not it either. Oh.
And I don't fit in the adoptive world, the adoptive parent world either, because I'm adopted, and some of the crap they think is like, no, you guys are wrong. But I don't have, so it was really hard for me. I mean, my son had driven me to that appointment, or to that meeting, and he met me outside, and I got, you know, my 18, I think he was 19 at the time, 18, 19, and I sat in the car and sobbed. My husband was in Fort Mac, and I just said, it's official, I fit nowhere. And it was very pivotal. It was actually a beautiful thing for me, because it made me realize, okay, after I got over my upset, after I got out of my emotional brain, I realized I needed some therapy. Go figure. And I know, hard to believe, right? I know, right? So shocking, because
newsflash, everybody needs therapy. Right? Everybody. Yep. Everybody. Even those therapists, they have therapists. I'm guaranteeing you.
My therapist had a therapist. She told me that, right?
Absolutely. And they should.
They should, you know, but this is the thing. Is that I had been to so many bad therapists, and so I'd given up, and so I was going it alone, and I was really messed up. And then this had happened to me. It's like, I need help, because I literally went into myself. I don't think I basically had a nervous breakdown. I literally, it was a turning point in my life where it was like, I've got to figure this out, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that looks like. And by fluke, I found the therapist I have now, and she is mentioned in the beginning of my book. In the dedication, because she literally walked me home. And the thing that I realized, that home is right here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You can't be my best friend and save me.
Right.
I love you. I want you to be my best friend, but I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, but you can't save me. I have to save me, and I have to be okay with where I am, and I have to fit in with me. But you don't when you're an adoptee. So when people get that, when they realize, I always say to adoptive parents when I'm coaching them, first thing you have to do is you have to grieve the loss of what you thought it was going to be. Because this isn't going to be what you think it's going to be. So let that go. And once you let that go, okay, now we can start. right?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you know what? You're right. Even with any kind of trauma and any kind of situation, like getting through any sort of hard times
Mm.
without the added piece of adoption, it's
Right.
you really have to love yourself first. And you
Yeah.
have to, and you're right about coming home. And that's, it makes so much sense. You know, we talk about this all the time with my clients and with our community. It's figure yourself out first. You know, they always say, put your own mask on before you help before you help your child, before you help whoever's next to you. And that really just, that reiterates it again.
And what's so
Even if you
interesting
don't
about,
know.
sorry to interrupt you.
No, no,
But
no,
what's
go
so
ahead.
interesting about that is that it took me taking Serenity, my husband and I taking Serenity on, that I realized, oh shit, I need some help here. Like I am not okay, you know, because dealing with the social workers had just rekindled my trauma.
Yeah, it triggered you again.
Oh,
It brought
so
you right
bad.
back.
And I mean, and you know, I'm not a lover of that organization for a lot of reasons, and they're all extremely valid. And read my book, you'll find out why. And it took her. I realized I had to get well for her. And isn't that weird? I had to get well for her, not for me. I still was there. I was still helping some, you know what I mean? Like, but then I realized how important it was for her that I do get well. Yeah,
Well,
a
that's also interesting because in just in everyday life as well, like we want, you know, everyone talks about what's your why, what are you doing this for, and most of the reasons, if you're a parent, is because you want to be there for your kids and you want to watch them succeed and you want to help them get there. Same for me. Like I do what I do because I want my kids to benefit, right?
yeah.
And so we have to be at our best in order to be able to provide that.
And
So
and yet we don't see that. It's all about being. I remember hearing the word the self-sacrificing mother, and my mother was like, oh my gosh, like, and I was going to be that.
yeah.
But guess what? It wasn't enough because I wasn't looking after me. And I mean, I look back on some of the probably, listen, my boys are probably going to be in therapy. Listen, most kids are going to be in therapy. We're all screwing our kids up to a certain level. But you know,
There's a good career path here, people.
yeah, think this through.
Somebody go into therapy because you'll be very, very busy.
Exactly. But the thing about it is that I didn't know and what I didn't know.
Yeah, of
I
course.
didn't know what I needed to know until I got Serenity, until I saw her, until I saw myself in her. When I saw how scared she was, you know, one of the really pivotal moments, were all these visits she had to do with bios, which was just trauma after trauma after trauma every Tuesday. It was brutal. And a driver would come and pick her up at the door and then rip her out of my arms while she's screaming like crazy. And oh, it was like Tuesday mornings were my worst day of the week. So Monday night, when the driver made the call to say what time they were picking her up, I was ready to barge. And I didn't sleep well that night, and it was just an awful day. And it's interesting because a friend came over and he for brunch, and it was they were neighbors, and it was a cool day. It was winter, it was really cold, and so he left his coat on for a few minutes. And oh my goodness, if she could have crawled inside my body, she was like hanging on to me like this. She was hanging on so tight, and I'm like, oh my god, like spreading, get off me. Like she was about, I don't know, a year and a half at this time, and like she's just like clinging to me. And I went, oh my God, Dale,
Yeah.
take your coat off. Drivers don't take their coats off. She thinks you're going to take her. And as soon as he took his coat off and hung it up, she was fine.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was wild. I one time a guy showed up at our door to drop something off, and he was yakking at us, and it was someone we didn't know that well, and he got between her and me, and she lost her mind, and she went all the way around the house, around him, to get to me, and then say go, like pushing him to go, and mommy, don't leave me.
That's so awful. And how do you watch your child go through that?
Oh, how do you every Tuesday morning put your child that's screaming, past crying is now growling, you know, that crying, that they're so traumatized, and they're arching their back trying to stop you from strapping them into the car seat of this complete freaking stranger.
Yeah, that's awful.
Oh,
How did you get through that?
my husband, my kids, my friends. I mean, I got through it because of her. She needed me to put my big girl panties on and deal.
Yeah.
She needed me to, because I needed someone to do it, and they didn't know to do it. I knew to do it. So I had to put my big girl panties on and go, yeah, this sucks. And I fought social workers and I argued. I'm sure that if you pull my file, there'll be a big red letter B beside it. And you know what the B stands
A
for.
big fat file of all the time. Yeah.
I mean,
But you know what? That's fine. That's valid.
I said, I had a social worker say to me once, Sally, you're not making any friends here. And I said, well, I'm cool with that. I said, because quite frankly, the things I see you people do every day, I said, if you liked me, I'd have to go to my God and question who I am as a human. So I'm good. You hate me, I hate you, we're good. I think I need a new office. Thank you.
Wow.
And I moved offices. We fired them. Like I don't know that it's as easy now because there's other things, but I'll tell you, like everything I did, every fight I had, every time I took one for the team, if you will, was for that little girl. Mm-hmm. She needed somebody to step up for her and shield it,
And what a gift for her that it was you. Such a gift. So great. Where do people go for support then?
Well, I think I'm going to have to start something. It's fun to bring that up because I think I'm going to start a group because if a lot of people seem to be okay with the trauma inflicted on kids through adoption and through fostering. Mm-hmm. Not okay with it, but go, well, this is just the way it is.
Yeah, it's just expected, right?
It's expected. And so
part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. And I want to be the person that goes, no, this is not okay. We need to fight against this. And we need to advocate for these kids. We need like Serenity's homeschooled and people, and now listen, I'm a homeschooler. My boys were homeschooled. They weren't originally, but they were very young. And I'm not against public school, but these kids do way better in a homeschool environment because it's too much. They don't have any game. I always say I had no game. Like the whole social part of school was so much for my brain that was always in full court. I was stressed the whole time I was there. It was the worst. School was the worst experience of my life. And not because teachers were disgusting or bad or terrible. Because I know lots of teachers who are lovely people, but they aren't equipped to deal with that brain, with that trauma brain.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be expected to be honest with you.
No, they need to have specialists in place for that or not. Yeah.
Or not. And that's exactly, and they don't recognize it, right, as a thing, unless the kid has got a laundry list of labels. And I don't believe in labels because they follow you for the rest of your life. And Serenity's not a label. She's a human being who, through no fault of her own, has some stuff.
Yeah.
But I need her where she's at.
That's right. That's not what identifies her. It's just a piece of life that she's been dealt and she's dealing with.
That's right. That's right. And so we need a group. And I'm realizing this more and more that we need a group of parents who want to do something different for these kids, who want to change the trajectory of their lives. Because trust me, they're cute. I used to hear all the time when we said we were going to get, oh, they're so cute. My sisters, aunts, brothers, uncles, they adopted from social services and it was the best thing. And then they grew up and that kid was awful and it wrecked their family, it wrecked their marriage, their kids don't speak to them, and it's the worst experience of their life. I've heard that a million times. They're so cute when they're little.
Yeah, so are kittens.
Right?
And then they never talk to you again.
Exactly.
Kids are always cute in the beginning. That God makes them cute so that you don't forget how much they've traumatized you. Yeah, I always tell my kids, you're so lucky you're cute. Right? Yeah, because otherwise who deals with that stuff? Like who would put up with all the things that they put us through if they weren't, if we didn't love them?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So with these ones, they're next level. They can be next level, not always, but I really believe that we've mitigated a lot of the stuff. And I'm not saying we're out of the woods. I am not arrogant enough to think we're out of the woods. We still do dietary changes. We still do brain exercises. We're actually researching something else right now. My husband always says I do better research than the FBI, and he's not wrong.
Then he's in trouble. Murray, don't mess up.
Saint.
I know. And lucky for your whole family that he is. But so you're starting a group, you're looking into that, you've written In Search of Serenity. I'm going to post a link where you can get that book because I think that it's a really interesting read from what I've heard. I've heard conversations about it and I'm really excited to get it. So I'll post the link, and then you're also writing another one.
I am.
What's going on there?
Well, a funny story actually. I'm not a dog person because that comes from my childhood. There's some trauma around a dog. So dog barking is a super big trigger for me. So I don't like dogs. I'm probably known as the bitch in the neighborhood who reports of barking dogs, let's be honest. But Serenity was really struggling last summer. And I mean, the COVID thing didn't help anything. She couldn't see her friends and she was really, really struggling. And I was starting to see that. And so, but you know me, I'll take one for the team. So let's get a therapy dog. Well, I look into it. They're $50,000. Okay, that puts it out. Number one. Number two. But we're still looking. We're going to get a dog. We're going to get we're looking at breeds and we're doing all this research. And I have 2 grown sons now, and God love them. They are 22 and 20, going on 84. They're like wise old sages. Really good because I need to be mothered or fathered or something.
Somebody needs to take care of you still, and that's good.
Right.
It's good that you have that.
That's right. So I shit you not, they called me one day and did an intervention. And Tyson says to me, Mom, why are you getting a dog? You will snap that dog's neck on day 2 when it starts to bark. And I'm like, but there was this piece of me that goes, but I said I'll do anything for Serenity. And he goes, Mom, why don't you get a cat? And I said, well, you know, mess and allergies. He goes, Mom, I'm the one with the allergy. I don't live at home anymore. Number 1. Number 2, I have a cat. So next, why don't you do a cat? So, and then Brady pipes up and goes, Mom, my landlord just rescued this cat from a job site. This was half dead and she's rehabbed it, but she has to get rid of it. Why don't you take, and I'd met this cat and was trying to avoid him because he was really cute. So his name is Gus.
So you rescued a cat also.
I rescued a cat.
You adopted an animal as well.
And when we brought him home, we told Serenity about it because we had to sell her on it because she thought she was getting a dog. And Tyson helped her. And she said to me afterwards, you know, she thinks, she's always thinking. And I told her Gus's story. He was abandoned. He was starving. He had nobody. And she said to me, Mommy, he's just like me.
Wow. And he's just like you.
Right? Well, and I choked up and I went, you're right. You're right. It still chokes me up because she's so wise. And so we got Gus, the therapy dog, also known as a cat.
Yes. I've seen your hashtags. I'm like, do you know that's a cat?
and it's on purpose because so something we discovered that children who have some prenatal exposure have memory issues. And so she can read like a boss. She's an amazing reader, but she has troubles with comprehension. And she needs pictures. So but she doesn't want to read baby books anymore because she's 10. Mm-hmm. So I am writing a book called Gus the Therapy Dog, AKA Cat. And it's going to be a chapter book for kids like her who have enough pictures that they can follow the story.
That's amazing.
And the person that's going to illustrate it is, her name is Sheila Totterin, and she used to babysit me. Oh. And yes, she's still alive. It's shocking that she's and she's an Métis artist. And Serenity is telling me what to write about Gus because she's going to be the author. I'm going to be the secondary author. And then Sheila is an amazing artist, and she's Métis. So I think I wanted her because she's Indigenous, and I wanted Serenity to have that for her. So it's going to be the book. Let's be honest, Gus is an asshole. But he's so damn lovable.
Because he's a cat.
Right?
They're supposed to be. It's predisposed.
Yeah, exactly. But he's the most lovey, derpy, ridiculous cat that has actually been, I'm not going to lie, he's been therapy for me.
Yeah.
Like, because he just wants to be loved. And he's like, I love you. Do you love me? I love you so much. Oh, I love you. I love you. And he's head bumping you. And he's, oh, I love you so much. Oh, I love you. Please, can I sit on you? Please, I need to be near you. Like, he has no idea. He has no concept of personal space.
And he obviously doesn't realize he's a cat because cats aren't usually like that. He probably thinks he's a dog too.
That's what I say. He acts like a freaking dog which is why Gus the Therapy Dog / cat.
Awesome.
Has happened. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's in the works right now.
Love it. Looking forward to that one and to finally getting your first book. Yeah. And you're joining me and my panel of lovely ladies. I haven't even talked about this yet. This is the first time we're going to mention it. I know. International Women's Day. We are going to be doing a panel discussion of like moms from around the world. And I'm so excited to have you on the panel because you're going to be sharing your story, your side, with the fact that you're an adoptive parent, that you're a child of adoption, and you've added the What is her background? She's
Indigenous. She's
Indigenous.
Cree. Yeah.
Cree. Okay. And then so having that added on to, and then the struggle with looking different and feeling different, that's going to be a great addition. So look for that. That's going to be March 8th. We're going to start registration on that really soon. I'm just putting together the final edits on copy for that, but so exciting. I'm so glad that you joined me, and what a story. I'm like, I don't even have a lot to say because, which is weird because I usually have a lot to say, but such a story and a triumphant story. And so congratulations to you for not being one of the statistics and for really showing that there is a really positive light at the end of the adoption tunnel, which sounds from an outsider's perspective like it's not so great unless you follow the Hollywood version, which sounds like it turns out not so great sometimes too. Not that the whole system is flawed, and not to put darkness on the whole situation, but it sounds like it's a hard road, and people need to be prepared for that. So awesome. How can people get in touch with you if they have questions, if they're considering adoption, or if they're in the middle of any situation? Where can we find you?
So you can find me on Facebook, Stella J. King, Instagram @Stella J. King, and also my website is stellajking.com. And your readers or listeners are welcome to reach out to me, ask me questions, we can chat. I'm down for that because I just want people to know that adoption is not a terrible thing, and it's not it doesn't automatically mean that you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, that's really important. And I think that message needs to get out. So thank you so much. I hope that if you're listening, that you're learning, that you've learned something, or that you have some new hope or new ideas, and reach out to Sally if you have any questions. And I will see you at the next conversation. And Sally, thank you so much. And I'll post all of your links and the link to your book as well. And I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.